Okay,
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our Zoom meeting tonight about the Ontario line. We're just going to let everybody sign up. It's going to take a second or two. So please be patient. We really appreciate your interest. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We'll just take a few minutes and let everybody get in to the Zoom meeting. Going to look at the line here through Toronto-Danforth. Bring you up to date on things that we know about. Get your questions out and hopefully answered, and be able to talk about some of the most difficult elements of this Ontario line that people are finding in our neighborhoods and businesses. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining tonight for our Ontario Line construction meeting. I'm City Councillor Paula Fletcher. Your other hosts are Trustee Sara Ehrhardt and MPP Peter Tabuns, and we're joined tonight as well by Anthony Irving from the Transit Expansion Office and Navi Thagar from the Transit Expansion Office at the city, who do permitting and other things, oversee, but don't run the Ontario line. Of course, that's Metrolinx. And Sara, I'm wondering if you'd be able to do the land acknowledgement for us tonight, please.
certainly. Good evening, everybody. We acknowledge the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara. Still having people join us, so as we go along, we will look at the agenda. We're just going to do an overview of the Ontario line, answer your questions, and as people are joining, we will start asking a little bit about you tonight so we can all see who's here. The questions that we'd like to know, and let's just see who's with us tonight at this meeting. And we'll just put that poll up right now. There it is. Where do you live? Do you live near the Ontario line between Lakeshore and Gerrard, between Gerrard and Danforth, from north of Danforth to the Don Valley? Maybe you don't live near the Ontario line, but you work or own a business near the Ontario line. You live in Toronto-Danforth, but not near the Ontario line, and you're from outside Toronto-Danforth, in which case we always welcome you into our community. Just give everybody a minute to vote. Just let us know who's here. And here we go. We have quite a few people here. A few people from outside, welcome. Most people have living near the Ontario line between Danforth and the Don Valley, Gerrard to Danforth, and near the Ontario line between Lakeshore and Gerrard. So that's our first question. So we know who's here, because we're going to do this in 3 segments. Zone 1, which is the going up to Gerrard, then Gerrard to Danforth, and then Danforth North. And the second one, I just let's find out how much you know about the Ontario line. We just want to find out if you're Ontario line experts or you're coming here to learn about it, or you kind of know something about it, but would like to know more. Give you a minute to do that. Again, thank you for joining. We still have people joining us tonight. Thank you for joining this meeting. We haven't had an update like this for quite a long time. Reminding everybody the Metrolinx is a provincial government project through an agency, very arm's length to the provincial government, and not the City of Toronto one, but we have City of Toronto staff here with us. And here we go. Most people know something about the Ontario line in the local area, and some people know a lot, so that you're going to be helpful tonight. And not many people here that don't know anything about the Ontario line. So thanks a lot for answering that, because that's very helpful when we're doing this to know who's with us. And having a meeting of this kind, we really have a lot of people. We have over 300 people on the line. We're just going to do a little bit of a high level setting. And Peter, do you want to just start to level set this a little bit about Metrolinx, Ontario line, and for a second or two?
Sure, Paula, I'm happy to start off. I know many of you who are present this evening have been around for a while, and you may remember that before the Ontario line, the City of Toronto had proposed a relief line from Pape subway station underground down to the downtown. And that project went through some pretty intense consultations in our community, some very heavy-duty public meetings, and in the end, there was community support for that relief line. When the Ford government was elected in 2018, it didn't take them long to throw out that plan, which actually would have given us a subway to the downtown sometime in the late 2020s. They threw that out for the Ontario line, 15, 16-kilometer line running from Don Mills and Eglinton near the Science Center, through our community, across the downtown to Exhibition Place. And the cost of that project, currently estimated at $27 billion, with completion sometime in 2031. Now, I suspect it's going to cost more than $27 billion and it's going to complete later than 2031, but that's the official story right now. In our community, it's expected that there will be stations at Queen, Gerrard, Pape and Danforth, Pape and Cosburn. I should note the original plan was underground throughout our community. This plan is above ground from roughly Gerrard Square, following the railway tracks down to Eastern and Broadview, which has caused an awful lot more disruption than was expected with the downtown relief line. That has substantially raised the difficulties we are facing as a community because of the above ground disruption. There is work going on throughout our community and in other places in the city. There's been a real problem getting Metrolinx to be responsive to the community. They're very focused on delivering what Doug Ford and his allies want, and not so focused on making sure the community doesn't pay a high price in property disruption of lives. We need the transit. There's no getting around it. We needed it before the Ontario line came along, and we need it now. But I would say, along with my colleagues and many in the community, the way things are being done is causing unnecessary turmoil and grief. And those are the kinds of things that we need to approach. Paula, I'm happy to expand, but I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Peter. We're going to be using the Q&A tonight, and some of you have already put some questions in. Why isn't Metrolinx here? Metrolinx was invited, but nobody was available to come on our Zoom meeting, but they did provide us with some slides. So we'll be using that in this. How do we pass information back? We're very strong advocates with Metrolinx. We have the city that does give permits and oversees certain things, can give that feedback to Metrolinx. So this is really taking the temperature and identifying, letting you know some of the many things that we've identified in our journey on this long transit journey that we're all on together. These are all design, build, maintain, and operate contracts, except for that above ground part, which means that it's not the TTC, it's a total 110% Ontario government project. And these trains will be driverless. That's the plan, unless some safety element decides that there actually needs to be some real people there. It would be, there's a lot of fun facts about the Ontario line. And before we start, we'll leave this up because this is the whole line going from Exhibition Place all the way to the Science Center, which may or may not get a new name because the Science Center, as you know, is closed. And that red part you see is above ground, totally above ground. They're putting a guideway up. You can see our part is blue, and then the green part is the above ground running on the GO Tracks line, and then all the way through downtown. Not an easy project. So we're just going to do a few more quick facts and see what you know. This is a little bit of a quiz. So how long is the Ontario line from Exhibition Place to Don Mills and Eglinton, which is the former Science Center? Is it 9 kilometers? Is it 11? Is it 15? Or is it 20? And then how much of this line runs through Toronto-Danforth? 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers, or 9 kilometers? And then, Peter, you gave away the last question, which is how much is it going to cost? We'll see if everybody was listening to you. Will it be 14 billion, 19 billion, 24 billion, or 27 billion? That is just some of the facts, because this is one heck of a big project. It's one of the biggest projects in the world, and it is one of the most difficult projects in the world because it is not like the TTC building it. Metrolinx has a lot of different people have many fingers and many pies on this particular project. So everybody's got a different experience with the construction. I think, Nick, we're almost ready to see what everybody knows. Here we go. 15 kilometers. Look at you, everybody. Very good. And then how much of it runs through Toronto-Danforth? Well, the answer is 5. So anybody who said 4, you're all pretty close, but it is 5. And last, Peter, yes, you did give that out, 27 billion. And that's one heck of a lot of money. And as you said, it might be more later. The other thing is, this is not a city project. The provincial government has a tremendous amount of power over the city, as we all know, with changing council and many other things. They have a Building Transit Faster Act from 2020 that requires the city to give access on all the right-of-ways. And if the city isn't doing things that they want, they can expropriate lands, our lands, city lands. They can also expropriate homes, as we know, and businesses. That has happened already. And there are other things people need to have, additional construction approvals if they live in areas near the GO line. If you want to do something to your home, turns out you have to get approval from Metrolinx. So it can be very onerous, and it is very much a centralized project through the agency. Toronto transit-oriented communities, and some people have asked about that before we started the meeting. Transit-oriented communities are the housing that's going to be built around each of the stations. So there'll be housing, transit-oriented community at Gerrard and Carlaw, Pape and Danforth, and Pape and Cosburn. There's and also a big one at East Harbor that's already planned. But this is truly very, very lots of density that is being considered here, particularly at Gerrard and Carlaw. And many of you have asked, will there be affordable housing? So far, we've been fighting for that, pushing that, and the city's been really pushing very hard to get affordable housing at these. But at the moment, there is not a requirement for affordable housing by the provincial government and all these transit-oriented communities. Next time we have a meeting on the TOCs, I will let every single one of you know from the city side, and you can stay in touch with Infrastructure Ontario because that's who's doing the transit-oriented communities, not Metrolinx. One last little question, because this is a very long line. We know it's 15 kilometers, 5 kilometers in Toronto-Danforth, and it's all being built through design and build and different contracts. How many contracts are there involved in building the Ontario line in Toronto-Danforth? 1, 2, 5, or 9? Give us your best shot here. Some of you have asked if we'll make this recording available. Yes, that will be absolutely there, available after. And we're not sure what's going to happen because we're not in charge. You've asked about what if it's at Yonge and Eglinton. You're going to see how difficult this project is because you're going to see how many contracts there are. You've guessed 9, and that's how many. At least 9 different contracts that are building this. The joint works, that's 2 kilometers at the beginning, the stations, East Harbor, Don Valley, the bridge over the Don Valley, all of the trains and all the systems. There's a big excavation of Pape and Salmon. There's a big excavation at Cosburn. There's Pape and Tunnel and the Portal. And there's a lot of utility relocations around Pape School. So there might be more than 9, but that's all that we know. So this is one big project for 5 kilometers. Thank you very much, Nick. We're here with Nick Valverde and Tamara Thanaraja here in my office and helping us do this. The first thing we're going to look at is the joint corridor. Peter, do you want to just run us through that, what we call the joint corridor, which is the tracks, that GO tracks that will be used by Metrolinx to put the Ontario line from East Harbor to Gerrard?
Sure, happy to, Paula. As people can see on the map, this green stretch is the above ground section south of Danforth. The idea was originally on the part of the Ford government that it would be cheaper to go above ground rather than go below ground. And what they've had to do is expand the number of tracks in the rail corridor to accommodate the north-south movement of the new subway trains. The difficulties we've had here obviously are very extensive excavation with a lot of vibration and noise that have made it quite difficult for people on either side of this work to carry on their normal lives. We argued against putting this above ground. Again, when the relief line was designed by the city, they rejected this course of action because of the disruption they expected. And frankly, their projections were correct. One thing I really want to note here, Paula, is that when we were arguing that they should go underground, we were told by Metrolinx that going above ground would save several $billions. And I have to say to all of you here this evening, they would never provide the figures for the cost of going above ground or the cost of rebuilding bridges. And so we don't know precisely whether they actually are realizing as big a saving as they claimed. But I would say that for all of us, we should make the argument in our dealings with them that if they claim that they've saved billions, that they should be spending an awful lot more money in our community to deal with the disruption that they're causing and to provide people with compensation for damage and disruption. When you talk to Metrolinx, when you argue with Metrolinx, point out to them they're claiming big savings. They should be using part of those savings to offset the damage that they're doing to our community.
We'll just look at a few more sections here because these are the difficulties. Peter's absolutely right. Everyone fought very hard to try to put this underground. You can see these are the GO tracks from above. This is now the expansion of these bridges in order to accommodate 3 more sets of tracks. And the community fought very hard to get noise walls. You can probably see if you're there, the concrete walls, the that are going up, which are quite attractive. And then there'll be a noise barrier on top of that. There is construction that's roads. Now, this was the east side. You can see Jimmy Simpson Community Center, how close that is to Jimmy Simpson Community Center. And that is all the work on the east side of the Ontario line. And then it's going to move to the west side of the Ontario line, where you will be noticing a lot of changes will be taking place, such as trees will have to be removed. A lot of trees will have to be removed. And there is those are some of the bridges. There's a lot of noise and vibration. There are access roads that are now being started to go off Queen Street North in order to do that work on the west side, and then south of Queen to do the work on the west side from Queen down to Eastern. This is a very big project, and we'll just show you some of the impact there for the trees. Metrolinx wants and has applied to take out 89 city trees, and there has to be show us exactly what is going to replace them and how that will be done. People are quite concerned about the vegetation in Bruce Mackey Park and Wardell Park, and that we don't just have a barren landscape in the two parks that are running along, including Salter. There's also trees that have to come up further north at Logan and 444 Logan, where the seniors home is. And there'll be the dog park at Gerard and Carlaw. That's where one of the stations is going to be. And we can see that that dog park at Gerard East is going to be closed on the east side, on the west side of the tracks, and moved over to the east side of the tracks in order to build the station, in order to build the walls. And this is a very big project. There's a lot of approvals that are required from the city permits, but if the city doesn't give them, Metrolinx can then take action. And they have already said they're going to use the Building Transit Faster Act to remove the trees, and they have done some expropriation to remove the trees. They've expropriated some land in Bruce Mackey to remove the trees. They have used the Building Transit Faster Act to put the roads up. So they are, this is how they're building the Ontario line. Some of the issues that we've heard about, Peter, along that section, the noise and vibration, there's a picture of the temporary off-leash that Metrolinx is planning to build, and that's what they're offering the community, that there are a lot of difficult issues in this section of the Ontario line. I think if the community hadn't fought so hard against the above ground and saying you must meet some of our needs, that it would be far worse than it is today. For anybody that lives anywhere along the line, getting a preconditioned construction survey is very, very important, and you'll see that later on, because this is homes are being adversely affected along that are very close to the line. They're shaking, things are falling off the walls. And I would have to say, Peter, you know about that Metrolinx is sometimes not very quick. And I know you spend a lot of your time pushing them to please be responsive to the construction chaos that people are living through for this project, particularly on the above ground section. Correct?
Yes, no, that's quite correct. And it's very frustrating for us, as it must be for your office, Paula, and for you, Sara, that because people can't get the response from Metrolinx that they need, frankly, that they come to our offices to see what can be done. We were not set up as a liaison for Metrolinx. Metrolinx has to properly staff these operations, and frankly, they need to give them the budget and the mandate to address the problems that people have. That is not happening. And that is a very substantial problem. I don't blame people for their frustration for a moment. People in a variety of the different areas have said to us they can't get phone calls returned and they can't get emails responded to. And that seems to me to be the fundamental minimum that has to be met when it comes to this kind of project. I'm not seeing it from Metrolinx. We have raised questions about this with the Minister of Transportation in the legislature, but I want to say to all of you, this Metrolinx operation is very much a child of the Ministry of Transportation, and they are protecting that operation, not protecting the community.
Yeah, someone's just asked about the preconditioned surveys. If you live within 50 meters or maybe 100 meters of the actual Ontario line, above ground or below ground, where there's going to be tunneling, Metrolink should be providing you a pre-construction survey. If you haven't had a meaning, look at your home, look at your property. What does it look like now? What does it look like after construction? This is very typical, but we've been finding in our travels up and down the Ontario line that many people haven't been offered that pre-construction survey and are quite worried because if there's pile driving and all the other things associated with a major construction project of this kind, you need to protect your asset, you need to protect the property, you need to protect your business. And the only way to do that is this pre-construction survey. So if you don't have that and you want one, please let us know. We'll turn that over to Metrolinx, or you can email Metrolinx at their Ontario line email. Although the other night in one of our meetings, somebody said the hotline isn't very hot. Nobody answers it. So we're happy to turn your name and everything over on the pre-construction surveys.
Paula, if I could just intervene there for a second. At the meeting we had recently at the Ralph Thornton Center with people in the Queen Broadview area, the Riverside area, a couple came up to me to say that they had a recollection of the pre-condition survey, the pre-construction survey being done in their home, that they had recently seen cracking in walls that, to their recollection, hadn't been there before. Two things, they were never given a copy of that pre-construction survey, and when they contacted Metrolinx, they were told that none existed. So I think you're quite correct. People should request the survey, and I think Metrolinx should be consistently and regularly informing people that the service is available. But I also urge people to take their own photographs and their own videos of their building, just in case Metrolinx makes a mistake. You want to make sure that you have a date-stamped record of the condition of the walls in your unit, a condition of the foundation walls, so that if there's a dispute, you have documents that you can rely on. Back to you, Paula.
No, I think, Peter, that's one of the most important things that we're now finding. And we do meet at times with Metrolinx. We send letters. We have our city staff. We make motions. Please, protect the community that is hosting this project and get these pre-construction surveys done. Their engineering, Metrolinx has hired the engineering service. It's not Metrolinx often, it's the general contractor. We've asked to see what that looks like. This was a very big discussion in the Zone 1 meeting that we had just last week. People are quite concerned they didn't know about it. They only went once and knocked on the door, and if you weren't home, they left something and then somebody's missed it. So this is a number one issue for anybody on this meeting that's close by. We're standing behind you to make sure this happens, and we're asking how many people should have surveys, how many people have filled out surveys, and Metrolinx, what are you doing to make sure everybody has one of these filled out to protect their home? That is very important. We went over the dogs. I don't think anybody has any questions about the off leash. It's probably the first time you've seen it, that's got to move. A few trees are going to have to come out there as well. Metrolinx is using its provincial authority to do that at the end of the day, and then there'll be a permanent off leash restored later with a proper city process for the design I don't know what that's going to look like. So why don't we move to the Zone 2, which is Gerard to Danforth, which includes the sewer work, which includes Pape School. And Sara, there are some real issues that have emerged now because of this project and Pape School. Do you want to take that away?
Yes, thanks very much. And I see that there was a question here just around how did Metrolinx follow through with concerns expressed at the November 2024 public meeting. And so there was a public meeting held at Pape School on November 2024, prompted by myself and all of you in the community. So thank you, because when we learned about the expropriation of homes across the street from Pape School, we had to ask Metrolinx for what that meant for the school and area community. They made the announcement of those expropriations in August. School started to receive information in November, around the time that that public meeting was held. And based off of that information, which showed that, pardon me, a portion of the school playground would be in a restricted zone due to the tunneling, TDSB, out of an abundance of caution, has taken a decision to temporarily relocate Pape Avenue Junior Public School and the Pape Children's House childcare from this site, from its home, to Jones Avenue School, which is what TDSB now calls a holding school. People will remember the fire. It's now been rebuilt and is able to take the Pape Avenue students on a temporary basis. This isn't really what anybody wants, but it's what has been recommended for safety reasons. And so that relocation is now, plans are underway. There's a survey out with the school community, and that is scheduled to take place September 2025. There is still work, we understand, to be underway near the school. And I have asked Metrolinx to seek to sequence its work in that area wherever possible to mitigate the impacts to students and school community while they're still there. I've also asked that they consider expanding the sound barrier that was put up around the school to go more broadly onto Riverdale, as it seems like that could become a staging area. I have yet to hear back from Metrolinx on any of those. I'll keep very close watch on that, and school children's safety issues coming to and from the school, both at Pape and at all the schools along the line that are being impacted by the work when kids are traveling to and from school. And I know that's a big concern north of the Danforth as well. I know we're not there yet, but I just want to acknowledge that I'm hearing that as well. Yeah, so I'm very sorry that this is happening, but I'm happy we're starting to get the information in, and we need to continue to get more information in about the work that's taking place here from Metrolinx so that we can advocate for the safest possible environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Sara. That was never in the cards when it first started. It was just going to be a sewer that was moving under the school, so the Ontario line could go straight up Pape out of the Gerard Plaza. And the other consequence, Peter, was I guess when the portal, so having 9 contracts means once that contract was given out, that contractor then started looking at what had to happen. And that's when those 25 homes became expropriated or became eligible or had to be expropriated. Is that your understanding, Peter? Because
Yeah, well,
that was a bit shocking in the summer when that happened.
It was quite shocking, Paula, and I actually took the opportunity to go and talk to people on the street about exactly what they were facing, how they were feeling about what had occurred. When I asked Metrolinx for a briefing, what they proposed to me, similar to what you've just said, Paula, is that they had done a survey, Metrolinx had done a survey of soil conditions But when they brought in the contractor looked at the soil conditions, looked at the slope of the tunnel, and said that, in fact, they could not guarantee the stability of the soil above the tunneling that had been expected to be there when Metrolinx did their analysis. So they said, what we see here is a risk that you have not previously factored in. And if you want to protect people in those houses, you want to be sure that they're safe, you actually are going to have to clear them out. That's very frustrating for people in that community who have gone through a lot, continue to go through a lot, but didn't expect to have to move out on top of it. Paula, it does raise real questions about the comprehensiveness of the planning on the part of Metrolinx when this problem was discovered so late on in the process, notwithstanding the fact they did the soil testing.
Yes, I think that was very shocking for people
Yes.
to find out that, because earlier on, everyone had received a letter saying, we need your property, or we don't need your property, or we need part of your property, we need to use it. So to find 25 homes gone was indeed a very big shock for the community, especially since it's across from the school that has had so many issues in the changing of the sewers. So that one is still underway by Metrolinx, but it's a very big community issue, and not sure what's going to happen to those homes in the long run, and nobody really knows. But someone's asked, does the province really have that much power? And I think that to override whatever the city is saying. Peter, would you like to answer that? Because the sad reality is that Doug Ford discovered that he had that power, and he's using it as often as he wants.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Paula. When the project came forward, um, there was an understanding of a very large construction project. But what came with it and was far less visible was legislation that was brought into Queen's Park that dramatically increased the ability of Metrolinx to simply run the show themselves without having to really pay attention to or respond to or adhere to the standards set by the City of Toronto. And those have been developed over many years to sort of balance the interests of development and local residents. And that's pretty much been thrown out by Metrolinx. The province does have the legal and constitutional power to override the standards set by the city and operate by their own. And I would say that that has been a huge source of conflict because, again, the city developed over decades standards that really did make things a lot more livable for people. Right now, for a lot of people, the situation is extremely dire.
Sara, do you have any idea how long the PAPE school will have to be relocated to the Jones Avenue?
So thanks, Paula. The hope is that it will be only 2 years, and the recommendation from TDSB staff is 2 years to stabilize the school learning environment. My understanding from TDSB staff is that there can continue to be work underway and the school could come back, but they need to have the tunnel completed past the school for it to be a reality. And so that is my understanding of the benchmark that TDSB will be seeking, that the tunnel goes beyond the school for them to look at bringing the school back home to Pape Avenue. I'll also just mention here, because I saw a question about Blake School. There are impacts to Blake School as well. Metrolinx has expropriated a portion of land of the Blake School property. And that is what we know to be the Toboggan Hill. The hill right by the fence, a small portion of that is being permanently taken by Metrolinx to expand the lakeshore goal line, the above ground line. And there will be a fence there. I did a tour with the Blake School community Metrolinx TDSB staff to walk around those grounds to better understand the impact, and we'll continue to keep close watch as to Metrolinx's plans in the area of the school as they undertake that work. And I continue to, it's been very unfortunate that the Blake Playground project, which everyone has worked so hard for, has been delayed as a result of this work. I do know ground has been broken this year on that at long last, but the design did have to be delayed to better understand the Metrolinx work. And so that has been a very unfortunate outcome for the Blake school community and the broader Blake Boltby neighborhood. I hope that is helpful in answering the question that I saw there. And I should say there are impacts all up and down the line to our school communities and to student safety walking back and forth that I continue to keep a very close watch on. And I want to thank our community for your continued advocacy and bringing forward the things that you're seeing. So thank you so much.
One of the things just around PAPE, and then I might just go to NABI for that, because all of the crossing guards, all of the student safety, all of the pedestrian safety for this intersection closure. And remember, it's not the Ontario line that's being built. It is the sewer that's being moved. And this is causing everything you're noticing at that intersection. It's a very big deal to move an old sewer into a new sewer under 100-year-old school. And I hope the precondition survey has been done for PAPE School, Sara, because that is quite intrusive. But just in some of the things, Navi, I think that every time what someone's saying, Metrolinx is not here, what are we doing? We advocate all the time for more crossing guards, for more paid duty officers, for more traffic safety is paramount. And usually when we're advocating in that way, we do get a positive response from Metrolinx or their contractor, Navi. Would you not agree with that? And if anybody has other ideas of that nature, please chime in the chat that we can help with.
Thank you, Counselor. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, our way of working with the community and with Metrolinx has been through collaboration and obviously paying attention to resident safety, and in this particular case, safety of the school children. So keeping that in mind, yeah, including traffic control persons, asking for paid duty officers, or requiring crossing guards has been a permit condition on a lot of the permits that we have issued, allowing Metrolinx to do their work. And we're going to be continuing to do that in all the works that Metrolinx is going to be carrying on in our community.
Assuming we give them permits for different things. The one thing that we haven't had answered here to anybody's satisfaction is, I think, do we have the picture up of the intersection is going to be closed, and it's going to be closed starting on the 16th of February for traffic going west on Riverdale Avenue. Can I just get that confirmed by Anthony, or I see Derek Toigo has joined here today, that traffic will either go straight down Pape or have to go eastbound on Riverdale. But the westbound lane between Riverdale and Carlott will be closed at that intersection. Can we just get that confirmed? We do have some.
Yes,
Navi?
I can confirm that.
Yep.
That will be the case.
So as of that date, and how long, and that is again for the sewer and all the utilities associated with moving a sewer, which, by the way, wouldn't have had to happen if it was the underground version. This is because of the portal and getting it from Riverdale Plaza up Pape. This is one of the things that had to happen. It's a mega project within a mega project. So vehicles will have no ability to drive down Pape and turn right on Riverdale Avenue as of the 16th of February. Confirming that? Yes? Navi, confirm?
Confirmed, councillors. Yeah, there will be a one-way traffic through the intersection of Riverdale and Pape Avenue to accommodate the sewer work and the other utility work taking place.
And then we've been asked about the PAPE 72 bus, which, as everybody knows, leaves the station, makes that turn at Riverdale and then down Carlaw. It was slated for Carlaw starting at Danforth, past the Holy Name School along the park. Toronto Fire said that was not going to be acceptable, and Metrolinx, TTC is working on a different route for that, which they will be letting everybody know about very shortly. So that is been a sore spot as to how that bus is going to go down Carlaw. It looks like that's not going to be possible. Toronto Fire has also given the green light for all the work around the old age home at 369 Pape. And I know when we had a meeting at the school, there were people worried about that emergency vehicles couldn't get back and forth for the seniors residents. And Toronto Fire has said, yes, they've given that a clearance that it can go back and forth there. So stay tuned for the changes for that bus. We'll send that out to everybody who was on this call tonight. The other one that's really concerning, and I'm hoping that if somebody from the Transit Expansion Office knows, or Peter or you, Sarah, the one thing we don't know about is the portal. And here is Gerard, well, I call it Gerard Square, it's not, it's Riverdale Plaza. The Ontario line will go underground in that plaza and then come up in Pape Avenue. All of the soil of the Ontario line from the Don Valley all the way to Riverdale Plaza will come out there. And we're very unclear about how it will be taken out. All the soil, the haul route for that soil. And many people have been concerned about it. I don't think Metrolinx has given an answer to the city on what the traffic route will be for those trucks. Could I please have somebody from Transit Expansion let us know about that?
Hi, Councillor. It's Derek. Yes, you are absolutely correct. There, because the contractor that's currently as part of this contract, the same folks that are doing the TBM,
What's
the
a
tunnel
TBM,
boring, the
Derek?
tunnel boring that's going to occur where the houses are. They're trying to determine what the best route is, and part of that will be them having to actually meet with us and with transportation services, as well as the community, to determine the best route to get the spoils out.
Any
But
idea
yes, it is
how
coming. It is coming out through there.
Any
Sorry?
idea how much soil is coming out from
No,
the
I can't. I can't tell you that offhand, Councillor, but I'm pretty sure we could find out that information for you.
So I think what we'll commit to is, as we're finding that out, because it's a big question, how is all that soil from the plaza up to the Don Valley going to be trucked out of the community? And so far, Metrolinx doesn't have a plan that they've shared with the city, because what we've done in the past around the intersection, around the bridges, is we've had a meeting to say, here's the plan. Tell us what you think. How could we make it better? Understanding at the end of the day that they'll drive their trucks wherever they want. So thank you. We'll commit to that so you'll know what's going on with that haulage, because it is a big safety issue getting that soil to the landfills, wherever it's going to be going. We've had a few questions about how long will that intersection be closed to traffic, to westbound traffic? How long will that bus be on a detour? Can Navi or Anthony, can you answer that?
Hello, Councillor. Based on the information that Metrolinx provided, it's going to be from the beginning of this year, sometimes from end of February to, I believe, the first quarter of 2026.
So approximately a year.
Exactly.
Approximately a year. Thank you.
Approximately a year. Yeah.
Approximately a year. And we've had some questions about the Bain Avenue emergency exit. Is there any chance that might have to get more? Peter, do you know anything about that? Sara?
Unfortunately, Paula, I don't have knowledge about that.
I think it's something that is, I think homes have been expropriated for that, so getting more information would be helpful, and we can make sure that people get that information for Bain and Pape, because something's going to happen there. We also have issues with tenants that were living on Pape, and we'll get into that a little more once we get into the Zone 3. Peter, anything more to say about Zone 2? Sara, anything more about the school before we move up to Zone 3?
Not at the moment, Paula, no.
Great. So Zone 3 is this section from Pape and Danforth up to the valley. And then you can see the red bridge once it gets past there. And someone has asked, could the Cosburn station be called East York Station? Peter, I think that's a great thing to ask for. It's a great idea. Thank you. And we'll start advocating for that. This is part of your suggestions here tonight.
Yep.
This, I think everybody has seen the huge construction site at Pape and Danforth. It's about an acre. It's large, and it's just the beginning, and it's only to, there it is there. Right at the moment, I think, Peter, it's only to get the pilings done, so the station, this is all about the station. Do you want to talk a bit about the Pape and Danforth?
Well, I will talk a bit about it, Paula, and I won't talk about the technical issues. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a person who runs a construction company, but I will talk a bit about the impact on the community. It's interesting, the picture that you put up here showing the amount of dirt that or mud that gets tracked out of the construction site. Many people will remember last summer and into the fall, the situation on Eaton Avenue and frankly on other streets immediately around the site, which were covered in dust. And I went door to door talking to people who found that the air filters on their air conditioners or furnaces got filthy really fast. There was an awful lot of dust coming off of that site, and it was not being dealt with by the builder. Now, you, Paula, raised this issue. I raised this issue, and Metrolinx actually did take some action on this. That was nice to see. It needed to be adjusted, but it actually apparently reduced the amount of dust that we were seeing on the neighboring streets. That was a plus. Now, the other thing that was a real problem, and I saw more of it on Eaton Avenue than on other streets, was flooding. People know the catch basins, the sewers on our streets. Metrolinx had put a filter cloth on those catch basins to catch dust so it wouldn't go in and clog up the catch basins and the sewers. Not a bad idea, but unfortunately, they didn't clean them regularly. So in the, I think it was August or early September, there was a water main break at Eaton and Danforth, which led to flooding of Eaton Avenue. Those catch basins, they were blocked by the dust on top, and the water just flowed into people's houses. So you had extensive flooding. And frankly, the work on the construction site seems to have changed drainage in the area so that the houses that backed onto it started getting flooding that they'd never seen before. So I think there are a number of things here with these construction sites where the focus, again, is on doing the transit, which we need, but not enough thought about, so how do we protect the people who live in the streets around this construction site so they aren't subject to flooding, to severe dust pollution? And again, there were parents who were telling me their kids were having asthma attacks. And we mentioned it very briefly before, but also the whole problem of rats. And people seeing rats they hadn't seen before. The problem down at Queen and Broadview, certainly it was a problem that's developing in the streets around this site at Danforth and Pape.
Thank you, Peter. So we've had a few people asking about rats and how difficult it is to get Metrolinx's attention. This is rats, definitely Pape and Danforth, because once you start digging, the rats are now freed. Their homes are gone. Starting now down at Queen and Degrassi, and also starting at Pape and Cosworth. where there's very deep work. So we've asked Metrolinx very clearly to have a rat plan. Peter, I'm not sure. Would you say they're responsive? We just need to keep the pressure up. And it's not. It seems like a odd thing to have as a major advocacy piece, but it truly is a problem for anybody living around the Ontario line construction.
Yeah, Paula, I haven't seen a rat plan yet. As you remember from meetings we've been to, Metrolinx has said that we ask the builders, the construction companies, to set up rat control on their construction sites. Fair enough. But they've also said to people, okay, if you get rats in your home, come to see us and we can arrange to have pest control. Also fair enough. But I don't think many people have been informed in advance that Metrolinx will do this. We saw one of the questions in the question and answer as to whether Metrolinx would contest the appearance of rats in homes. We haven't heard that so far, but what I would say to anyone is if this construction is happening in your neighborhood and you haven't had rats before, I think 2 + 2 equals 4. You should be demanding it. And if you're not getting response from Metrolinx, please let us know. I mean, we can't guarantee we'll get them to do something, but we'll do our best to put pressure on them. But I'll come back, Paula. We actually need a rat plan that the community can look at, can critique, and that will be put in place that will protect people from this kind of infestation in the future.
Yes, so I think that's what we'll be asking for, and I think there'll be a lot of support for that. Hopefully, they'll be open for that. They do have rat traps around their construction sites, but this is for people's homes, and they were quite reluctant to understand that that's happening. And anybody who's had somebody renovate their home on your street, you know that rats are getting freed at that point. And these are massive, massive construction sites. So there are a lot of rats coming out. Not a subject we all want to talk about all day, but for people that are now at the mercy of rodents because they're coming out of construction sites like the one you see here, it is a very difficult thing. And I just want to say I'm very committed, as I think Peter and Sara are, to just keep pushing for this to be taken as a construction issue for this Ontario line, because you all of a sudden there's somebody saying that they've had a steady stream of rats. So it's hard to get Metrolinx to understand, or they're not them, they're contractors, because it's the contractor, one of the 9, that has to then take on a pest control company. For the community liaison committee that we were at last week, they thought it was only for the demolition of a building, but it's not. It's for all of the construction, because this is a very serious matter that we now have, which nobody had anticipated, but it's now happening. So the other thing that is the tenant relocation, we found out that there's over 163 tenants. Not only have the houses been expropriated, but there's been 163 tenants who have had to move. I think you've all seen Pape and Cosburn and all of those buildings that are completely closed for 2 blocks. The businesses are closed and the apartments are closed. All at Pape and Danforth, all of the apartments, people had to move. And we are very concerned about the tenants. Lots of advocacy on their behalf, because they're only being supported for a short period of time. And this is one area that I'd say we have had some positive response, because Metrolinx is now moved from CBRE doing their work with tenants to an organization that works with tenants. And I think, speaking on behalf of my other 2 panelists, that it's an issue that we want to make sure that at the end of that year, that the tenants aren't now homeless. Because if you're now moved to a place where the rent is $3,000 a month and you're getting supported for a year, at the end of that year, what it means is you won't be able to pay that anymore. So this is a very big deal, and I know the city has been advised of that in all of the negotiations with Metrolinx. And this is something that I feel very strongly about, and I know that you do, Peter, and you do, Sarah, and I know everybody on this call doesn't want people to become homeless because they were somehow evicted from their rent-controlled apartment for the Ontario line. So please give us wind in our sails to keep fighting on that front. The Salmon Avenue, I think I'd just like one of the Toronto Transit Expansion people to just outline a little bit what's going to happen on Salmon, because this isn't kind of unanticipated. It's going to be a little different than what they said at the beginning, again, because once they hire the contractor might be making a different decision than what Metrolinx had shown. So I'm going to ask who might like to discuss that. Derek, did you want to have a stab at the new Salmon, some expropriations, change of underground work?
Sure,
You can
sure,
see here.
Councillor. Happy to do that. The initial alignment that you're seeing in blue, that was the initial alignment. So where the tunnel was going to go. What happened was, based on the information we received from Metrolinx, the location that you're seeing, the X, is where there's going to be a crossover. The crossover has to occur on what's called on a straight or on a linear piece. It can't be on a curve. So that was the best location for it to be. So the blue is what you're seeing as the original. What happened was when they actually began to do the testing, the construction company that was doing the testing, they began to dig down, and what they hit effectively a high water table. So in other words, the water is very high there. And what they would have to do in order to vacate that water, in order for a tunnel to go through there, would have had to have required them to expropriate significantly more properties than what's proposed in that orange band that you're seeing there. And they would have had to have put in what's called a temporary water plant, a plant to take the water out, treat it, and then release it into the storm system. So what's been proposed by Metrolinx is to shift the line to the east, and rather than it be tunneled in that location, what they're going to do is they're going to use what's called a cut and cover method. So they're going to dig down, and as they dig down, they're going to build effectively a wall that goes all the way down to the bottom of the shaft. And then what they're going to do is waterproof it, so that the water that's still there, it's still there, the water. That what happens is it'll keep the water on the outside, and then as the tunnel boring machine goes through those walls, it'll create an appropriate seal, and then they'll just continue on. Effectively, they couldn't do the tunneling the way that they had proposed. It would have flooded the tunnels. So that's why they're using this different method here. What it means is that there's, I believe, 6 businesses that are going to be taken out, expropriated, and about 14, I think, residences are being expropriated as well. So roughly in that orange magenta box area.
So it'll be a little more intrusive than originally planned.
Yes, significantly more intrusive not significantly more intrusive. The work will occur in behind appropriate hoarding. But yes, I mean, it's more intrusive in the fact that if the tunnel had gone through there, you wouldn't have seen this occurring.
And you can see all the easements along here for the work on properties that they need to have the ability to use that property in some way in order to do this work. There's also just been a question about the work at Pape and Danforth, and not everybody, some people might think that's the actual Ontario line. Would you just like to give a brief synopsis of the actual work that we're seeing there at the moment?
So there are sure, Councillor, I'll take that. There are two portions of work occurring at Pape and Danforth. The first one has to do with renovations within the station itself for the future accommodation of the the line, the connection into the future station, the future Ontario Line station, and the second one is all the enabling work, all the work to remove to prepare the actual tunnel boring machine to allow it to kind of go underneath the PAPE station. So what they're trying to do is to avoid having to shut down PAPE station. So this work is being done to prevent that from occurring.
That's for to be able to build the second station, the Ontario Line station, which will be below PAPE station.
That's correct.
And then the Ontario Line will bore under that and meet. And we're hoping, unlike Yonge and Eglinton, that both of these stations will match. But some people have asked, do we have a guarantee on that? I don't know if we have, but I would assume that somebody's checking the work.
A guarantee on what exactly? I'm not sure what the question
Well, we
was.
don't have the same problem that we have at Yonge and Eglinton, where we have Metrolinx and the TTC not jibing at that location. And I don't know if the TTC or the Transit Expansion Office is overseeing that to make sure we don't have any problems after going through all of this pain.
So the TTC have been working very closely with Metrolinx because of the close proximity that the Ontario Line station will have and the tunnels will have to the existing station. So they've been working very closely with Metrolinx to make sure that if there are any sort of issues, in particular, they're very concerned about subsidence or the soil underneath, being impacted and causing any sort of shifting in the tunnel up above. So there's a lot of work to make sure that that won't occur in that location. And of course, transit expansion continues to be monitoring this as well.
Yeah, I think everybody's a little nervous about that because of the because of the situation that we're all seeing up at Yonge and Eglinton. And this is a very long project. It's still another 5 years or so to go. So making sure it's done right is number one. The situation with the Pape Village BIA, I think, Peter, I don't know if you know if Metrolinx is going to be putting up hoarding, but it's very big eyesore up on Pape in that business district to have 2 blocks. Actually, 20% of their business improvement area has been expropriated by Metrolinx and closed. When that will start up, when they'll be demolished, when it won't look so bad, I'm not sure if you know that, or if Navi or Anthony, you know the answer to that question.
Paul, I'd turn that over to Navi or Anthony. I haven't seen any commentary about hoarding, and you're right. It's not very attractive. As with regard to the actual construction schedule, off the top of my head, no, I don't know.
Anybody else know about that, or we'll just park that for the next time?
Yeah, Councillor, we'll work with Metrolinx to ensure the hoarding, at least first of all, the area looks neat, and the hoarding also reflects the desires of the local community. If they would like to have any neighborhood specific sort of items to be displayed on that hoarding and making sure that it looks nicer. So yeah, we can get a proper response from Metrolinx on this item and engage them on this. Thank you.
Thank you. There is some concern in the questions about the slurry plant. If we go back to that, well, that big picture of Pape and Danforth, slurry, maybe you could just tell us what the slurry is, because not everybody knows what the slurry is. Who'd like to tell us? Anthony? Derek? What is slurry?
So slurry is effectively a concrete mixture that's liquefied. So what it's being used for is they use it a lot of times to fill up gaps, use it as kind of an armature, like they can spray it. So what it is, to make it simple, it's a liquefied concrete.
But it's somehow going on the houses around that. It's a very big site. And is there anything that we can do on any permit from the city or put some pressure on Metrolinx to not have this slurry affecting the homes on Eaton?
I'd be surprised to really. I mean, I understand this is a concern. I'm just not sure why it would be splashing over onto the houses. So we'd have to kind of see what the issue here what the issue is, Councillor.
Okay, I know there's just a lot of issues from that site, Peter, and I know you're very familiar with it.
Yeah. No, there are a lot of issues. I have to say, when Metrolinx actually started washing the wheels of the trucks as they left the site, when they put the street sweepers in place, that seemed to substantially reduce the dust problem. Now, Paula, that doesn't say that there weren't other problems that weren't dealt with at the same time. The ones that were visible, that we're aware of, had to deal with dust control. And frankly, having been up there last August and seeing the amount of dirt on the Danforth on Eaton, I can believe that just that alone would have been enough to clog up the filters on people's air conditioners and cover their cars in that fine layer of dirt. I actually, when I went up canvassing there, I think it was late August, early September, I was down at the bottom of Eaton with a pad of paper in my hand trying to write notes. And suddenly I realized the pad of paper I was holding was getting covered in grit, that I had to clear off the paper before I could write anything. So there was clearly an awful lot of material coming out from that site. Again, when I went back, knocked on doors further north about a month later, that problem had eased substantially. So I don't know whether the slurry was involved. I don't know enough technically to say yay or nay, but I do know that the problem had been reduced, coincident with the cleanup of the mud on.
Thank you. Just as well at that, again, the structure is Metrolinx is hiring general contractors. There's a general contractor that oversees and is responsible just for Pape and Danforth, but only for the station and all the preparation. It's a different contractor that will be doing the actual tunnel boring. It's a very complex, difficult riddle to kind of follow who's doing what. But there's one thing that we did have a walkabout in the summer, and the generators that were being used, which were very, very loud, managed to arrange to have Metrolinx hook into the Toronto hydro system. That was good. And then, Peter, I know at the last meeting for Cosburn, people have asked, can we do the same thing? So I'd have to say we're constantly asking Metrolinx to make changes that will assist the community and not be as intrusive in the community. We see a lot of questions here and suggestions about rats. Nobody thought this would be a major discussion, but it is now a major discussion to indicate there has to be a rat plan. There has to be a dust plan. There has to be a vibration plan. And we're not building this directly. The city is only giving permits. Sometimes somebody will go out and say, you can't have your truck there. The very beginning, all of the rebar was parked on the Danforth. The city said, move that off the Danforth. It got moved up into this little siding area in Pape. So there's things like that that we can do. At the end of the day, if Metrolinx says we're going to cut down all those trees, we're going to use the Building Transit Faster Act, we don't care what you say. That is the power that they hold, constitutionally, actually, over the city of Toronto. And we're all feeling it in this Metrolinx project. Peter, there's the moving on to the valley. Is that the valley? And that is an aerial now that you can see of the Minton Street,
Yep.
which is the houses. You want to just talk a little bit about the houses are gone, and that's going to be where the portal, where the trains are going to come out.
Yeah, that's right, Paula. This is a good aerial shot. The lower left corner is where the trains will be coming out of the wall of the Don Valley. The area on top that you see there with the trucks, I understand is going to be excavated to build the structure there where the tunnel boring machines are going to be coming out. This neighborhood has gone through an awful lot of disruption. People may not be familiar with it. It's a nice little enclave. Where you see the construction site in this picture previously had quite a substantial row of trees, and people knew that there would be a problem when the trees were removed, but they didn't quite realize the amount of noise that the trees were screening out before from the traffic on the Don Valley. Recently, in the last day or two, the people in the immediate area have been told that the construction hours may well be lifted from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 Monday to Friday. I think it's from 7 to 7 and then Saturday as well. And I apologize to everyone. I know I'm not. Oh, Paula, you've got it in your text. Exactly. So that's been a shock to people. One of the realities that people have to understand is many folks work from home now. And they may work remotely for an office downtown or somewhere else in the GTA or somewhere else in the world, but they also run their own businesses out of their homes. And so it's not a question of, okay, we'll be there doing the construction during the day while everyone's away at work. No, people are in their homes working, trying to produce some income. And so it's really critical that Metrolinx look at these construction sites and determine how they can best reduce the impact on the local residents. One of the residents, just on the left side of the screen, wrote to me saying that their whole house had been shaking heavily. They thought something was going on with the refrigerator jumping, that there was some mechanical problem in their house, and they found out that it was Metrolinx construction. Well, it may be helpful to Metrolinx, but it makes it extraordinarily difficult for some people to make a living. And I think Metrolinx has a duty to look at the technologies that are being used, look at the machinery that's being used, and at every stage, make sure that you have least impact on the neighboring community. Again, we need the transit built, but let's not sacrifice the communities around the transit construction in the course of doing it.
Thanks, Peter. Can I just weigh in again on the slurry, because we've had a couple of people say actually that mess is now on the street, spills on the street and gets on the houses. It's very messy. So that big 1 acre site at Danforth and Pape, it's a mega construction site, the likes of which isn't anywhere else in the city. It is dirty. It is messy. It's creating vibration, noise. The sewers, apparently there's concrete in the sewers that have to now get fixed. For anybody who didn't know that from tonight, we heard that Friday that somebody's dumped concrete in the local sewer. Not somebody, one of the contractors. So it's just a constant difficulty at this particular site. There's been some flooding. They have a lot of permits that they're using there. We've spent a lot of time at that location around getting the street cleaned, making sure people can still park on Eaton in the lot, and having better relations, getting the generators stopped. We're still working on a number of things with Metrolinx. I just want to say it shouldn't be so hard, but because Metrolinx does not is it's not like the TTC is building it. When the TTC builds something, the buck stops there. Metrolinx has these very big P3 contracts with these contractors, and that is one at Pape and Danforth. And when we're meeting there, people are very concerned around their parking, around the rats, around the vibration, around the dirt. And I just have to say that I don't have the answer, but it really is it's one of the most difficult locations, kind of a ground zero construction nightmare for all things happening at one time there, Peter. And I know you've noticed this yourself.
Yeah, it's very tough. And I'm also noticing people posting on the question and answer about the traffic problems around Hopedale. And frankly, a problem around Pape and Danforth as well. There wasn't the planning around parking that was required, and the plans that we've seen so far have not, to my knowledge, actually addressed people's fundamental concerns. This is an issue, Paula, where I think the construction companies have to be pretty rigorous about making sure that the workforce that comes onto this site park a distance away so that the local residents aren't driven away from their homes.
I think in the south part that was fairly successful on some of the permits to have people not parking in the neighborhood. I'm not sure it's the same in the north section. The zone one that we looked at, the above ground tracks that we saw, the 3 GO train tracks, and then there was to be a 4th for GO expansion, and now there's 2 more for the Ontario line. So altogether, 6 tracks where there were 3. That project was actually under the total control of Metrolinx because it's actually GO Transit that owns those tracks. Once we're outside of the tracks and the above ground GO line, then it really is very hard to have some of these big contractors answer and do the things necessary. And because we don't have access to all of whatever their large contracts are. There is a question here. I just want to go back to the precondition surveys, because as we go up the street and as we go back up the street, that how many meters is it in which you really should have one? What's best to have? What's possible to have? Because I think anybody living there that doesn't have one of these already, that's number one, precondition survey for any of the construction, and particularly once the tunnel boring machine's going as well. So I don't know if Peter, if you know that answer, or Derek, you know that answer. Anybody from Transit Expansion has an understanding of that.
Well, I'm happy to have Derek speak to this as well. At the last meeting we were at, Paula, they said 50 meters. And I should say they also said they would be open to requests for pre-construction surveys beyond the 50 meters, but that would be more of their discretion. Derek, if you have comments on this, I would be very happy to be corrected or have those thoughts expanded.
No, sorry, I don't have any further information as to, I mean, I would think the 50 meters sounds like a pretty reasonable kind of distance away from the from where the TBMs are going, but I don't know at this point in time. I'd have to get this information.
Well, let's make sure we get that and let everybody know that was on this call or this meeting. It's also the pile driving, because it's not just the TBM. There is pile driving for the stations and anybody who's near a station, and there's pile driving to get the footings and everything in. That is also a lot of vibration that's happening there. So that is one answer. I'm just going through a couple more of these questions about the storefronts on Pape and getting some people to paint them. Metrolinx is controlling all of that. Now that they own all that property, that's a future station, a future transit-oriented community. But certainly we can pass that along. Number one, by the time that all happened, they should actually have something up that looks better than just a dreadful big scar on the street. So hopefully that will be coming soon, but we'll certainly pass that along. Why don't you get the BIA to organize that and get some hoarding up on Pape Avenue? The situation for the Pape and Danforth construction, how long is this section of construction going to last? Just for preparing? I'm just asking the TEO staff if you have an idea on that. Because they're going down for the station, then the station has to get built and covered over. So it's a very big job. I'm just not sure how long that's going to be going on.
Happy to answer that, Councillor. So
Sure, thank you, Anthony.
the work that's happening now is going to conclude this summer. That's according to the contractor's schedule. After that, there will be excavation. So that they don't have a schedule for that, but what they've said informally is sometime within the year, so early next year. And then after that, that contractor that we talked about, because remember there was 9 contractors for this line, which is the Pape tunnel contractors and the station contractors are going to come in. And that's if it all goes according to schedule. And then they'll be doing work there until 2031.
2031 altogether. Yes.
Yeah, in obviously different phases of work, and some work will be more disruptive. Some of it will be underground. You might not be as impactful, but work will be happening by and large between now and 2031.
Thank you. There's a question about in-person meetings and having them. I'm not sure we'd have quite the number of people out in in-person meeting, but there's a real thirst to know more about the Ontario line. Metrolinx does have what are called community liaison committees, and there may be some of you that are on this call tonight that are on a community liaison committee. So let's just see if you're here, and then we can tell you a little bit what they do, or if you're a member of a community liaison committee. Metrolinx tends to ask people to be on there. They have public meeting or in-person meetings. There's times when Peter and I held a meeting on the 20th of January for the Zone 1. That one is very successful. That's where the rats, the preconditioned surveys, all of the noise and vibration, how well the Metrolinx and their contractors are responding to neighborhood issues. And that was a good meeting that we held there. So obviously now that COVID's done, there may be an ability to have more local meetings about these issues. So let's see if anybody is on a community liaison committee here tonight. Not too many people. So thank you. Just 4%. And the community liaison committees are exclusively set up by Metrolinx. They bring the contractors, they bring everybody there. I think maybe, Peter, it might be a good idea to ask them to have a more open format at times for the community liaison committee. Sara, you have had large community liaison committees at Pape School, have you not?
Yes, and I have gone and attended some of the liaison committees for Danforth North just to get a sense, and I completely agree that having more open meetings by Metrolinx would be helpful to get information to our community.
For everybody who's living around rats, everything else.
Yes.
Someone's asked what we mean by easement, and would you like to take that, Anthony or Derek? What's an easement on your home? What does that mean? To be asked to have an easement. Metrolinx can use your home for different things, but not expropriate it.
Yeah, typically an easement is, and it's probably better if corporate real estate were the ones that were answering this, but typically it's a mechanism that allows Metrolinx or the province in this case to access the home to kind of do the work that they need to do, but it's not a taking of the property. So it's not an expropriation. It's permission that allows them to go in there and do whatever work that they may need to do. And it's typically for a certain period of time, whatever the period of time that's been negotiated on the easement.
And then the part about not being able to, certain zones or certain homes, you can't get a building permit without Metrolinx's permission. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So under the legislation that's been provided by the province to Metrolinx, they have the ability to look at building permits, and in particular any structures, and this structure is not necessarily a building, that could potentially interfere with their ability to construct the subway program. They could effectively hold the permit or force the permit to be held.
So
Yep.
it's not to say you can't do work, but in a certain area that you can't just normally do what you might normally do.
Yes,
Get
that's
approval.
correct. That's correct.
And that would be flagged at the city level where you're in a certain zone. How would that happen?
Yes, there's a certain zone. So what would happen is the typical permit process would be followed, and the building department would then be sharing this information with Metrolinx. Metrolinx would do their review, and then they would, through the building department, Toronto's building department, then provide the feedback back to the to the homeowner.
Thank you. Catherine has written in that on the map about Pape and Salmon that Fulton and Browning are in the wrong place. So pardon? Oh, the Metrolinx map. So I just asked Derek if you could let Metrolinx know that their map is incorrect. Thank you, community members, for pointing out things like that. I think it's really important on a map that we have the right things in the right place. There's a question about cut and cover at Pape and Browning. I think that was misheard. The cut and cover will be at, I think, Derek, you said at Salmon and Pape.
Salmon and Pape. That's
yes.
correct.
And that's not a station, but it's an emergency exit.
So what they're going to be doing there is the crossover that I was talking about previously, that track where the train crosses over, and the emergency exit building.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions here that not everybody's had their questions answered, but what I'm going to say is we'll take these and send them to appropriate people through to Metrolinx. We'll bunch them together, and some of them, if we need to, there's no lake under Danforth, but there may be water under Pape. And so what I want to do is just say thank you very much to everybody that spent time with us tonight. And also just let you know, we're actually, I'm having a city budget meeting on Monday night. If you'd like to be there, Shelley Carroll, who's the budget chief, and the mayor Mayor Chow will be there. So just doing some advertising while we're ending up here. And I want to thank our city panelists. Peter, would you like to wrap up? And Sara, and then we'll just find out if you thought you learned anything here. And I know some people said we should have more regularly these types of updates. So go ahead, Peter.
Well, just a few things. Again, Paula, thank you for pulling this together. Sara, city staff, everyone who actually participated to make this possible. I'm very grateful because I think this was a useful meeting. I think the request to have this more frequently makes sense. And I certainly think that having more community meetings makes a lot of sense as well. People do personally want to show up, question Metrolinx, and try and get things sorted out. I want to say to everyone, it is very difficult to deal with Metrolinx and very difficult to deal with the province. They are not responsive to our community particularly. The current government has a strong majority, and they give Metrolinx their marching orders, and Metrolinx behaves in a way that is consistent with provincial policy. And as people in this community can testify, That's not a very pleasant thing to go through. We do have to be noisy. Occasionally we will win things. Recently there was a situation at Tabuns where a subcontractor threatened a local resident. And in fact, Metrolinx fired that subcontractor the next day, which give credit to Metrolinx, they responded to that. But there are many other things they need to respond to. And I think it involves a change in the way they operate. Looking after the community that they're operating in has to be as big a priority as getting this construction done. Doesn't mean the construction gets set aside, but it does mean you make the investment in the equipment and the people to reduce the damage and disruption that they're causing. Again, Paula, thanks for doing this.
Thanks. So Sarah.
Thanks so much. There are a lot of people on this call, and there are a lot of questions, and it is frustrating. Like, I share the frustration because so many of these questions would be for Metrolinx to answer. These are questions to them. And so I just want to thank everybody here for doing what they are doing to seek to answer these questions that are Metrolinx's to answer, really. And I want to in particular thank Councillor Fletcher and the City of Toronto for all of the great work working with you on these forums, but also the day-to-day management and collaboration that we have. And I want to also extend that same thanks to MPP Peter Tabuns for his work for PAPE School in particular, and the Construction Liaison Committee there, and raising matters in the provincial legislature related to the impacts that are taking place in our community, and writing and constantly being there really front of line at the province. I will keep up that fight through the TDSB and in my role as a school board trustee as well, at PAPE and at all of the other schools impacted by this construction. And I'm just so grateful to our community for being so active on this as well, because together we can make this situation better, despite how frustrating it can be. And so just thank you so much to everyone.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And again, thank you to everybody who's on the call, and thank you to our staff from the Transit Expansion Office that do work directly with Metrolinx. They can't tell them what to do, but they can ask them to do things differently, which happens often. Sometimes one of our guys goes out and says, your permit, I'll pull your permit. And they do listen to that. But it's not an easy thing to do, having 5 kilometers of the Ontario line running in different ways through our ward and through our neighborhood. So just our last little poll is if you found the meeting helpful, yes, somewhat, or no. And thank you, Peter. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, everybody. We couldn't get to all of your questions, but we found out again that rats are a really big problem, that noise and vibration are a problem, that messy contractors are a problem, and we will continue to work on your behalf as well as we can with you and on your behalf to mitigate as much of these issues as possible. And thank you. A lot of people say yes, that they found this to be a very good meeting. So we haven't had one for a while. Remember, we're going to come back and talk about the haul routes and any of the other traffic matters that are going to arise probably on PAPE and other areas. And that's very much a transportation issue, because they have to submit their transportation plans to the city in order to use our city roads. So thanks very much, everybody. Good night. If you want to sign up for the budget, that'd be great. Stay warm. Have a good winter. See you in the neighborhood. Thank you.